Okay, hello everyone. It is great to see the enthusiasm in the room in terms of what women can do in technology. And I was talking to some of my friends earlier who have been to this conference. Love to see the variety and diversity of ideas people have, the kind of discussions we are having, and having a partnership with companies like Aspire for Her, where people can come together and think about how the world is evolving together and be at the forefront of it. So this is our attempt in terms of what AWS is doing to show you how developers can be more productive. So before we start, how many of you are developers? Raise your hand. Oh, wow. It's about 60% of the room. How many of you have people in your team who are developers? Okay, some of you. So this is going to be an exciting journey which we are going to take you on in terms of how the world is going to evolve in terms of software development as time evolves. Of course, none of us can predict future, right? Future is hard to predict. But we are talking about trends which we are seeing. What are the initial inroads which are currently being made in generative AI, which is helping developers? So we're going to talk about that. There are some chairs empty in the front because we're going to show some code which may be hard to see from the last chair. So if you are comfortable, feel free to grab and sit on the chairs in the front. I'll quickly introduce myself. 1 minute. Clicker. Can you give me the other clicker?
Okay.
Okay, seems like we'll get the other clicker. So I'm Anupam Mishra. I lead the solution architecture team for AWS as a director, and have been with the company for 16 years now. A lot of my journey at Amazon started as a software engineer as well. Worked on Amazon Kindle in my initial few years when we were building it for the first time in India. Then I traveled to Seattle, spent a few years there working on Amazon Prime and some other teams. Then I worked in San Francisco with several of our startups and customers. Moved to London to lead few teams, and finally I came back to India. So very happy to be working with the ecosystem which we have of startups, developers, and looking forward to some great interaction. So given the size of the group, it's a small group. We're going to keep it interactive. We don't have a lot of content to go through. What we want to make sure is you understand how the world of developers is going to change. And I'm pretty sure some of the takeaways which you will have will make you more productive immediately. So if you take some of the learnings from here and try it at your home either tonight or tomorrow, you are going to feel more productive. That's my promise. Madhuri?
Yeah, thank you, Anupam. And we've been introduced already by Ruchita, but just wanted to add a few things. So I do the same thing as Anupam, but at a much smaller scale. I lead the partner technology team for AWS partners out of India. I joined Amazon 8 years ago. And what is really humbling for me is to be talking here with my Grace Hopper fraternity. I am here for the 4th or 5th time participating, and in between there was a long pause, so I'm really, really excited to, and honored to be speaking here, as well as speaking with you, Anupam. And I'm also excited for another reason, because this is my favorite topic. And I'll tell you why this is my favorite topic. Because I work with partners. And who are these partners? They're all IT companies. Okay? They are companies like Infosys, Accenture, Deloitte, Freshworks, Mindtrickle, Snowflake. Okay? So you get the drift, right? What do? They do software engineering. That's their business, right? And with generative AI, there is endless possibilities that the partners can do in the software space. And I have been on this mission of helping them disrupt the way they go about their software business before someone else comes and does it for them, right? So that is why this is my favorite topic, favorite forum, and I am all ears about what Anupam is going to say on generative AI. But quick show of hands. Everybody is aware of generative AI?
Who is not aware of generative AI? Just raise it. There's no shame here because we are going to level set based on, okay, thanks for raising the hand. Anybody who has not learned about generative AI so far? Okay, few of you. So we want to make sure we start with a level field where everybody understands basics of it. So I'm going to super simplify what generative AI is. I'm assuming all of you know what AI is, artificial intelligence, essentially using computers to do smart things. What a human brain can do, can machines do that? That's artificial intelligence. And when it comes to generative AI, it can generate things. Now things can be code, can be text, can be images. I'm pretty sure some of you would have seen companies which are creating stories using generative AI these days, companies which are creating new type of images. They can create, one of the examples which I saw in initial days was astronaut riding a horse. I mean, it's hard to imagine a astronaut riding a horse on the moon in real world, but AI can imagine that and they create images like that. So essentially generation. And at a very simple way, the way it works, if you look at the thing here, what happens in generative AI is there's a data of almost all things available online fed into the models which are used for generative AI. So you can assume it has read almost every story, it has read almost every news article, it has seen code across all repositories available, and then it can use its learning to decide what should be generated. For example, if you look at this example here, it says the student opened. Now, when you think about it, right, the student opened, there may be a lot of ideas which come to your mind. What will student open? Maybe open a book, maybe open their bag, maybe open the, let's say, cover on the TV. So several things can come in mind. So what generative AI would do is think about how do you predict what should be the next word. So it always predicts next word based on what it has learned so far, and then it generates content. So it can decide. So as the context get bigger and bigger, let's say if it is written a story which is of 2 pages, it knows what should happen next. It can, because all of this is probability, it knows open their eyes, the eyes of probability is higher, then there's a high probability of laptop. If it is a student, maybe they're reading book. But if it was just maybe if it is somebody says a dog opened, a dog probably will not open a laptop, right? So it knows the probability of different people doing different things. So that is the high level concept. There's a lot of research which has gone into it, so I'll not go into that. But this is the fundamental concept of how code is generated. It knows the code which you have written so far. It also knows code which has been written in all the world so far, whatever is in the public domain, and then it tries to predict what should be the new code. So we're going to show some good use cases about that. Okay, 1 minute. Yes, go for it.
So, adding to what Anupam said, right? Generative AI is a technology that can generate, right? Vis-a-vis just doing predictions, is what we've learned. Just unpacking that a little more, trying to put a perspective on what was traditional ML and what is new, right? So we all are in the middle of this storm called generative AI, and it feels like hype. It felt like hype to me too, a year ago. Oh, okay, another big, shining technology that has hit us. Should I care? Okay, but this is where we have to develop a perspective on how to use this as a foundation for all of the future application development that we do. Okay? What that means is everything that you are going to contemplate in your future, near future, you should start developing the perspective, okay, generative AI is also there. Can I benefit out of it, right? And the LLMs, the foundation models can actually truly enable so many use cases vis-a-vis the traditional ML, okay? Now, I'll give you one example, which I'm sure everybody can relate because we're all here. We've been hired, we've been recruited by someone, right? So let's take a recruiting firm itself as an example, how they can leverage generative AI, right? If they have resumes and they have to do a simple search, what should they do? They have to store all these resumes in a standard format, and in the traditional world they will have to build their own NLP model, custom NLP model. And for that, they'll have to have dedicated teams, because for each domain-specific task, you will need a separate machine learning team, okay? However, using generative AI, you can simply give a few examples of the input resumes and output resumes, and you're done. That's all it takes, okay? This is the reason why everybody is eyeing generative AI to gain massive productivity for themselves, for their organizations, as well as innovation. Okay? Now, in order for that to happen, generative AI should become mainstream, right? That means it should be accessible to all and sundry, not for some research scientist sitting in the middle of nowhere trying to, do something in a lab. It should be available for all and sundry so that it becomes pervasive, and that is what our mission at Amazon is. Making it pervasive, making it accessible to everyone. And that also reminds me of a factoid, okay? When did deep learning start? Any guesses? When did the first deep learning paper get published? 1990? Yeah, about 30 years ago, so you're close. The first deep learning papers were published around that time, and we got here through a cycle, machine learning life cycle, right? Initially, it was linear algorithms with gradient boost, right? Then came neural networks, which had the ability to learn from patterns and do image processing, and products like Alexa evolved from there. And now it is generative AI, time for that, which will help you create your business use cases with as little as 20 data points by fine-tuning the models. Okay? I hope that added a little more of whatever Anupam said. I now want to, can you go to next? Yeah. I now want to take a quick 30 seconds to give you an understanding of what AWS generative stack looks like. Okay? Remember I said we want to make it pervasive for everybody, regardless of what they want to do. So if you have to understand what our stack is, you just have to keep these 3 tiers in mind. That's it. Okay? The bottom is for those people who want to develop their own FMs, foundational models and LLMs. And what do they look for? They look for infrastructure which helps them do it in a sustainable manner. And why sustainability is important? Because generative AI is very compute intensive. I'm sure everybody would have seen it somewhere. It's very compute intensive, and to be able to do it sustainably, you need infrastructure that gives you good price performance ratio. Okay? And that is why we have invented our own silicon to do this. Our own silicon, which is tailor-made to run generative AI workloads. And you see that all of the industry-leading providers like Anthropic, AI21 Labs, Stability.ai, Cohere, Meta, Mistral, all of them are running their models on AWS. And they also have a very nimble API, which will encapsulate all the heavy lifting in making these models scalable, available, and performant. So it's called Bedrock, right? So Bedrock is what you will see in the middle. But if you're one of those who wants to stay in the open source space, you can do that as well, using our software platform that support open source development of foundational models. Now at the top is where it is at, because the top layer has applications which are game changing, such as Amazon Q. Okay, so these services actually use generative AI behind the scenes, but for you it is just an application which can generate the code. And for us, based on all the research, generative AI is going to grow maximum in the coding space. Okay? So that's what our research tells us. Anupam. So
cool. I think I'll just share one thing. Can everybody hear? Because I see a lot of audio from background. It's okay? Okay. Cool. We are going to show you a lot of examples. Before that, I quickly set one or two things in terms of how GenAI is used across the industry. There are some use cases. It generates text, generates a question and answer. You give it a question, it gives you answer. A lot of people probably have interacted with the chatbot these days. They're doing generative AI. It can summarize documents. It can generate images. So these are several use cases. We're going to talk about coding use cases. We're going to focus on that. And if you are interested in learning about where generative AI is used at this time, we have a website called, I think this podium probably is not making it visible. It's called aiexplorer.aws.amazon.com. Maybe I'll try to move it a little bit. Yeah, I think it's called aiexplorer.aws.amazon.com. Is possible? No. Oh, let's not deal with it. Okay. Yeah, okay, cool. So AI Explorer, so it can give you a lot of use cases which are useful. So if you find that this talk interesting and you think, let me think where I can use it in my business, my team, what should I think about it, you can go and take some inspiration from here. And finally, the talk which we are going to give, we have several personas in it. We have thought about different people who will get benefit from generative AI in terms of coding. And we have used generative AI to create those personas as well. So this is an example. I don't think the prompt is visible. It says an IT women professional attending Grace Hopper conference at Bangalore with a whole gathering of other professionals. That's the prompt we gave, and it generated these two pictures. Madhuri was saying it looks like they are really attending. So I think it's become so real. It's hard for us to distinguish between what is real and what is generated by AI. So the avatars / people we're going to talk about are all fictitious and generated by same generative AI. So with that, a quick intro of how software development has evolved. Software is changing. Some of you have been in software industry for a longer time. Some of them are new. But long back, we had things like assembly language. Has anybody worked on assembly language or heard of it? It used to be almost 15, 20 years back. It was taught in colleges. Where just for a simple addition, subtraction, you have to write like 20 lines of code, and not the most fun thing, but it was interesting that how it happens at a register level or at a microprocessor level. Then it came to like we had command prompt or things like terminals where you can write commands. Then became IDEs, like whether it's Eclipse or there are several NetBeans and many more. And then for all of these, things are changing better, becoming better and better for developers. Object-oriented languages came where there's abstraction available, a lot of reuse you can do. You can write code for one module and you can use the same module across a lot of things. Then test-driven development where you write test cases first and then you develop the code. And then finally, domain-driven design where you think about different business domains and how they talk to each other. So essentially, the direction in which software development is moving is how do software engineers become more and more productive by thinking of reuse, software reuse, thinking of giving them more power by IntelliSense and better IDEs. And then same generative AI is taking it in the same direction at a much faster pace. So we're going to show you what it is. With that, let me do the next thing.
Okay.
Can you do the next slide, please? Okay, so the first person we're going to meet is Anusha. Anusha is a software development intern. So she has just joined the company, as you can imagine, probably her first internship experience. Can any of you tell what type of things Anusha would be doing as an intern when she has joined as a software engineer intern? Just raise your hand and share your thought. What kind of task she will be assigned as an intern? What? Write test cases, okay. What else? Unit tests. What else? Bug fixes, yes. Okay, test cases, bug fixes. Somebody was saying documentation. So I think there are several things where essentially you need to learn about the code and then do some small changes to the code so you become comfortable over time. So that's what is happening with Anusha as well. Anusha is given this task and she has to write these test cases. So Madhuri, why don't you take us on a journey to show how Anusha would fix what her manager has assigned?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to show you how Anusha, who's been assigned the task of documenting the existing code by her manager. Okay. That is the step one task that she had got. And Yeah, so this is a food analyzer application which Anusha knows nothing about. Okay, so I'm going to be Anusha now. I have downloaded the code from Git. I am looking at the code. I am not able to follow anything. It's a fairly complicated code that you can see, right? So I will take the help of Amazon Q in my IDE because Q can support all your favorite IDEs. So I do that, and I just give a slash. I think this is really coming in the way.
Yeah, they're going to fix it.
Sorry, I'll just get rid of this.
Yeah, while they remove, you can talk.
Yeah. We'll have to go back, actually.
Okay.
Can you just go back? Come from the beginning.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, play it. Okay, I hope it will be better now. So this is a food analyzer app. I know nothing about it. I'm a software intern, which is on day 1. So I look at the code, I'm completely befuddled. Okay? It's fairly complex, so I decide to use Q because I am a curious person. And I can just install the Q plugin in any IDE I want. So I invoke it, and I give a slash. It will tell me all the possible commands that I can use to give my prompts. Okay? Now, because my manager asked me to generate documentation, I need to scan the entire workspace itself. Okay? So I use the at workspace, and I give a prompt, which is the what you see in the purple. Okay? In the prompt, I tell Q all the outputs that I want, in addition to just doing the documentation. So you can see, oh, it does a recipe recommendation as well. I didn't know that, okay? That's what I'm discovering. Q is helping me do that. Q is also telling me how to build, how to test. And additionally, I can get all the NFR related performance improvements, as you can see here in the chat. Now, why am I getting all this? Because my objective is only documentation, because I have asked for that in my prompt. Okay? So I asked for all of this in my prompt. You can see that it's a fairly long prompt, and it gives me all the corresponding outputs, AWS services, but I discovered that an LLM is used by this code, which is Haiku. And you know, this we saw, building and running, suggestions for improvements on NFR, security, observability, error handling, modularity. I didn't even know that modularity is one of the NFR, so I'm learning that. Okay? Now, I'm curious, I'm just beginning, I'm in a very exploratory mind. I want to use Meta's LLMs, Llama 3, instead of Haiku and see what happens. Okay? So I give a prompt corresponding to that. Now you have to notice that I'm giving very specific keywords in my prompts, because that is the basis of getting your inferences right. And it has given me all the steps that are required to use Llama 3 instead of Haiku. And it is also asking, it's also giving the code suggestions for contextualized to this particular project. Okay? And it is also marking, one, of course, it's giving all the components that have to change. And then it is marking the code changes corresponding to each component. Red is old, green is new. Okay, so you can see all the changes in different components. Okay, I'm happy with the code changes. I reviewed it. I can tell Q to make the code changes as well. All right, how cool is that? I can see some approving nods in the audience. So code has been updated. Would you like to work on another task? That's it. I am done. Okay, so documentation is complete. Anupam.
Wow, Madhuri, that was pretty good. So think about starting your first role as an intern. Your manager assigns you a task to create documentation, and then you're done in 5 minutes. At the same time, I think it's also good to think about where are the places where you can use it. I think there are a lot of possibilities. I know some of you are raising hand. Keep note of those. We're going to have time for Q&A. And we're also going to have a contest. I think Aspire for Her is doing a contest where they will ask you some questions in a quiz format. And those who respond the most number of correct questions are going to get some goodies. So keep a note of those just so that we stay on track. We're going to take questions at the end. Now, Madhuri, that was pretty good. You quickly showed how test cases can be, how documentation can be generated, how a small change was made in the library LLM. Can you talk about test coverage now? Because that is the very common task. I think a lot of people suggested here as well. Unit test is a common task which everybody does. How many of you love writing unit tests? Very few people. Yeah, I don't think anybody. Because, I mean, once you've written the code, you feel like it's an essential thing to do, but wish somebody else can do for me, or wish it can happen automatically. So, Madhuri, why don't you show us how Anusha would get benefit from Q?
Okay, bring it on, Anupam. Okay, so I actually decided to take a simpler class for this because it's important for people to understand rather than use the same food analyzer. This is a test. This is a class that just does simple number calculation like a plus b, a minus b, and all that. And there is already code existing which will do testing, unit tests. Okay, which is calculatortest.java. And I can, I think I just raised, I'm lagging behind Q. Q is faster than I can speak also. What I've done here is I've just asked Q to explain the code block. Because I'm new, I don't know JUnit. Okay, so Q is actually showing me all of that. Now, what is my task? To do test coverage. So I select a method, public double multiply, because multiply was not included. So I select a method, and I've asked Q to simply generate, how do I write test cases for this? And Q is telling me everything that I have to do in that method, okay? Create the objects and call the multiply method and then do the assertion on the results, okay? So it is actually done all of that. Now, I'm a programmer. I don't want to cut and paste from chat, although I can do that, okay? So what I have done is I simply used a hotkey to start generating the unit test code line by line, as you can see now. Okay, it has generated the code for multiplication. It is now generating the code for division, which means I have completed the coverage. I mean, this is a simplistic case, but you get the drift, right? Now, let's say I have an edge case, like divide by 0, okay? How will I handle that? Before that, let's just verify if all of this is actually correct and working. So you can see the test run of 4 and everything is run successfully, which means Q had generated accurate code. Okay, now I want to do a edge case testing, which is divide by 0. How do I do that? How will Q know it? Remember, we have not given any prompts till this point. Q inferred everything based on the code that is there. For this one, I had to give a hint saying test divide by 0. Okay, so for the special cases that are in my mind, I'm doing that. But otherwise, you don't even have to think of what test cases that you want to create. Okay, for most part. And then I do the same thing. I just verify and run the test cases. That part is manual right now. Okay, now again, done, Praveen.
That was awesome, Madhuri. So you saw how documentation was generated, how unit tests were generated. You just have to tell that generate unit test and it generates it, or you can tell specific test cases which you think of in your natural language and it generates it for you. Now let's move to another person, Praveen, who is a senior software engineer. He has different types of responsibilities coming to him. Some of the things which he needs to think about is the code keeps running. If you've deployed something on production, he wants to make sure it's always up and running. He wants to make sure there are no security bugs. He wants to make sure that the website doesn't go down. So all of that come on Praveen. So let's think, how will we help Praveen? So before we go into Praveen's specific use case, there are one or two anecdotes which I want to share. So there is a agency called software.com. It's a large software survey company along with development as well. And they analyzed and surveyed several developers and found that on a median developer, so if you arrange all of them and you look at the median, for a median developer, the amount of time that person spends on coding is less than 1 hour a day. It felt so surprising to me. Generally, we are working like 8, 9 hours, maybe 10 hours, in some companies 12 hours, maybe some companies much lesser. I mean, in the whole day, you're writing the code actually for 1 hour. That's the analysis, or that's the survey. Where does all the rest of the time go? I think rest of the time goes in several other things which happen around writing code. And it's not the best thing for a company, right? I mean, a lot of companies are thinking, how do we reduce the meeting time? How do we reduce the commute time? Especially places like Bangalore where people spend 2-3 hours commute. So I think companies are thinking of various ways to help there. At the same time, there's also a concept of flow. Flow is where some people also call it zone. Sometimes have you felt like I'm in the zone? And if you are in the zone or flow, your productivity is much better than the other times when you are not in zone. So a lot of times, developers get out of the zone when they get distracted. Distraction can be, let me check this notification on WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, or I have this bug in my code, let me search it on Stack Overflow or somewhere else. And then you go on a spiral where you were checking that bug, but you checked 20 other websites because of distraction. So how do we, a lot of companies are also thinking, how do we keep the developer in the zone so their productivity is very high? So Amazon Q can help you there as well, because you stay in the same IDE for doing all your tasks. So we're going to show you that. And also, how do you increase the 1 hour which you get for code to much larger window? There's also a lot of work which is happened in terms of what it takes to build the software. So first you start with the plan. A lot of this will be discussions with the requirements gathering team, maybe the business entities, why we are building the software. You will create a high-level design. You will test the code. Then you will think about, how do I operate the code? I know some people are struggling to see the bottom. There are some chairs here. Feel free to take them if it's not visible from the back. And finally, maintain and modernize, where you think about how do you modernize the code. So a lot of work which developers are also thinking about maintenance. How many of you take care of maintenance in your jobs? Very few, about 10% or so. Because maintenance is important, even though it may look like, oh, it's not the most important task. It's probably the most important to keep website running. So we're going to talk about how maintenance can be automated for cases like, okay, cool. So maybe in Java's case, Madhuri, maybe you can share how in Java's case, what is the big maintenance and what is the current struggle which a lot of developers have?
Yes. I was looking at some numbers here. How many of you are Java programmers in the room? Oh, not a lot. Okay.
What are the other languages actually? Just curious. Scala, okay. Scala would have some Java flavor.
Scala, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry? Okay. What else?
Golang. Wow, awesome.
Oh, okay. So, by the way, we're taking a Java example here, but all of the languages that you mentioned are supported by Q. Okay? Now, the interesting, and I'm glad that people are not stuck in Java and, you all are really racing ahead. But one of the reports, analyst reports, it's called New Relic report, says that Java 8 is still used. I mean, the latest is Java 23, right? But there is software that is still using Java 8 even today, okay? And why is that a problem? Because all unsupported versions of code is debt, okay? They come with a lot of business risk, including security, okay? And just upgrading these old versions to new, that itself is expected to give you around 20% higher price as well as performance. Okay, so super important for people to continuously invest in upgradation, and that is also part and parcel of maintenance, Anupam, because you're talking about what are the different activities that typically go into application maintenance activity?
Yeah, actually in Amazon, we were talking with several teams, and Java 8 to Java 17 upgrade, for example, makes a very common sense because you save 20% cost just by the upgrade because the software runs much more efficient way. But a lot of people don't do because it takes many days to do it. In Amazon, it takes 2 days for us to move one package. And we have millions of packages, so you can think how much time it will take manually. So we use Amazon Q, and all that work was done in 2 days. So in 2 days, we saved many millions of dollars because that was done using Q. So we're going to show you how that will work as well. Okay, so let's take this example. Let me see, let me make sure it's playing. Yes. So this is an example of the same calculator class. It's a simple calculator class. For simplicity, we have kept it as calculator. And currently, we open the prompt here. And the way you transform from one version of language to another is something called /transform. So we are saying Q transform. We are saying transform from Java 8 to Java 18. That's what we are telling it. It's confirming that this is what you want. It's also asking where is the path. It found the path. And then it takes about 10 minutes to do this. But we have fast forward the 10-minute part. So what is happening is currently it is transforming. It's looking at all the code. It is looking at all the dependencies. It will also look at the test cases. It will make sure that everything passes. And then it will say, I upgraded your code to Java 17. You can review the diff. Now it's going to show you diff of what was the previous version and what is the new version. And then you can accept it. You can just acknowledge that this is the right thing to do. So if you look at it, it has also made changes in the pom.xml, which has all the dependencies listed. So if you look at the POM XML, you will see it is showing, as Madhuri was showing earlier, the red part is what was earlier, the green part is what is new. And it's saying, for example, in Java, that there was change in how double variable is defined. There is also some change in, so it has made those changes. Actually, you can see how that change is looking in the new version. New double became a double. And then it is also looking at other changes which need to be made along with this. So as you see the changes, you can just accept or reject. If you think this is right change, you just accept, and the system itself will allow you to do that. So that was pretty good, right? You just upgraded. So if you are, and this could be a homework if you think it's interesting. If you think your code is running in an older version, just try and see, can I upgrade it? It will be just a 5-10 minute task, and it can give you a lot of efficiency. Now let's think of another one, Madhuri.
Yeah, so this is cool. Praveen, I'm going to call you Praveen, okay, because that's the role you're playing. This is all good, but what about frameworks? The Java applications have several third-party frameworks. How do we address those? Like in this case, I'm still so stuck with Ant. What is it that you can help with here?
Yeah, so I'm going to show you an example, and this may not be relevant to all of you because depending on what language you have, there are different frameworks which are used for build. But we are talking about Ant and Maven frameworks, which are common ones for building Java. So if you want to change from Ant to Maven, for example, it's a pretty heavy lift task for people who have done it. So in this case, we are saying /dev. /dev means whatever code I have, look at everything, and say convert the Ant-based build to Maven. That's all. This is the prompt which we have given. Okay, I'll generate the code for you. It generates 3 or 4 files. If you accept the code, it will update the files as well, and it will generate the right files. For example, in case of Maven, it has generated POM XML file. It has also created a README file which shows how to run this, how to execute this. Now I'm going to show you an interesting one. This is a new addition to Q where you can do inline documentation as well. So you press Control-I, it's a shortcut, and then you can write, as you're looking at the file, you saw the documentation is not looking good. So you say, document this code, and right away it generated the documentation for the code. It is also showing what was the old documentation. Earlier it was Hello World class, now it says Hello World class, which has construction for this and that. So you can make your documentation better by inline. You just say Control-I and make the documentation better. You can select a specific part and make that better. So I think it's becoming much more about keeping the developer in the zone. How do we not distract the developer by going to 20 other places? How can you get all the functions and features within the same window? Now it has made the changes. In the terminal it is showing a build is done during Maven rather than the earlier one which we had Ant. And it is also showing how to run it in the file here. And finally, it will, I think we are running it. I think it's not coming on the screen right now. But essentially we are saying run it using the Maven and show the build. And the build succeeds as well. So it's pretty powerful use case. If you think about it, there may be several things. If you're using, I think somebody was using Golang here. Some folks are using Python. Maybe some folks are using Scala. So all these languages are supported. And you can imagine what all you can do. Because a lot of things, it's not like developers are going to get replaced by it. I think developers are going to become much more productive where you think that this is a simple thing. Why do I have to type these 20 lines? You can just ask it to do it and it can do for you. Over to you, Madhuri.
Yeah, so all of this is nice and dandy, but I'm pretty sure that Q can only do and to Maven right now. I am quite sure that none of the other frameworks for other languages are supported yet, but I do know that a lot is coming from a other language support perspective, like for Scala and for Ruby on Rails and so on. Okay, so there are more coming. Right now, this is a little limited, okay, framework upgrade. That's a confession that I want to give. Now, what about security? We just went and done a major upgrade on our application from Java 8 to Java 17, right? So, what is my security posture now?
Yeah, I think security, as we know, is a pretty important topic. A lot of developers, nobody wants to write unsecure code, right? Everybody wants their code to work. But what happens is when we are writing code, we are not thinking always about what can go wrong. Of course, we think about, okay, an exception where some wrong input comes, some other thing happen. But there are like so many known problems which can happen with code. For example, there's a library called OWASP Top 10. It shows top 10 vulnerabilities. Now, not every developer is thinking all the time that, oh, is every statement I'm writing, is it doing it? So I think what can be done is, as you write code, how do we make sure it is secure? And can Q help there? So on that one, Madhuri, maybe you can walk us through an example.
Yeah, sure. So this is an application, a complete application itself. It's slightly different. Again, I've taken a simplistic case. Basically, here you can see a REST API that is enabling posting of review comments, feedback, like product feedback, okay? And then it's a Node.js application, so all that is happening here in this file is just starting the Express server. Now, what do I want to do? I want to do a security scanning. So I go to Q, and I initiate the scanning there for all the vulnerabilities. And you can see that Q had come up with all of the vulnerabilities that are present in this particular application. And what is better than that is, it is actually going and telling me which are those lines that are leading to specific vulnerabilities. You just saw DDoS vulnerability, and another one on SQL injection. Basically, it is about submitting unvalidated inputs to database. That's what will create that, and similar to that is a log injection problem. So you can see it's actually going and marking in the form of the squiggly line in the code. And then we have, this is cross-site request forgery. This is a tough one. I don't even know what this is and how to mitigate. Okay, so I take Q's help again, and clicking on explain, Q is generating the answer for me, explaining to me what is CSRF and how to even mitigate. And you can see that it is also generating some code samples for me to go and use. Okay, so this is one example of how you can unearth all of the security vulnerabilities in a given application using Amazon Q. Back to you.
Thanks, Madhuri. I think there is a lot we have covered so far. We have seen documentation getting generated. We have seen unit tests getting generated. We have seen upgrade of libraries. We have seen upgrade of build framework. We just learned security of the code. Now I think one persona which we have not touched, which is IT administrator. Anybody is an IT administrator here? Not many folks. Okay. So IT administrators' work is to make sure the applications which are running are always up, right configurations, deploying servers, finding the right server types. So that is the work. So Jaya is IT administrator, and she is thinking about where can I get my productivity benefit. So let's walk through that and learn about how IT administrators like Jaya can benefit from Q. So
yeah. Let me cover that for you, Anupam, because I do have some background doing a little bit of such tasks. So typically, IT engineers are tasked with deployment of applications where they will have to tune the application parameters for the infrastructure that they are deployed on. Now, again, it's a Java thing, but generally the very big task for an IT engineer when deploying Java applications is to tune the JVM. Okay? So the JVM tuning is something they'll be a little uncomfortable about because they are not familiar with the application concepts. So that's a challenge, and that's where Q can help IT engineers as well. For example, you have a problem such as I want to run my Java application on a C5XLARGE server on AWS. What is a C5XLARGE server? It's basically a server which is a general purpose compute instance. Okay, so think of it as a generic server, and I don't know how to configure Java parameters, JVM parameters to deploy on this, and I can ask you to do that. Similarly, in a typical cloud environment, the infrastructure is never constant. Today it is C5XLARGE, tomorrow it is C5-2XLARGE, right? Because that's how cloud enables scaling. It is very, very on demand. So you will have to then retune your Java parameters. That's the challenge that we have. And this is not IDE, right? IT engineers are not going to use IDE. Rather, they will use terminal, console, CLI. Okay, so I can use Q here as well to give me all the shell scripts, commands that go into my JVM tuning in this case. Okay, I'd say Q chat and Amazon Q is actually coming up with all the possible options that I can use to give my prompts. And I've given the exact same prompt that I've shown you in the slide before. I want to deploy on a C5XLARGE. Give me the JVM parameters that are needed. If I have to have minimum jitter using garbage collection and configure it for best possible performance on that particular server type. Okay, so that's a complex problem to solve because many times if you have coded in Java, you know this is an iterative process. Okay, and Amazon Q is actually giving me a command, and actually it's invoking. It's also telling me a Z shell command, which is basically giving all the parameters to tune the garbage collection. It says use G1 GC, G1 garbage collector with a certain pause millis on intervals that it has to run and so on. But this is a complex problem to solve, and Q is able to help with that as well, beyond ID. Yeah. Okay, why don't I now put everything together for you all? I know you've been seeing different types of demos, IDEs, and shell scripts and all of that. Now, what is it in a nutshell? Okay, so Q is a generative AI-based code assistant that can help developers and IT professionals as well, and different developer personas like interns and testers and all of that. Okay, and it can make you 10x productive. Now, okay, that's a bit of a hyperbole. Okay, how am I guaranteeing that it is 10x? Because the effect that Q can produce is greater, I mean, it's like sum is greater than its parts. So you can automate all of these tasks. You can document code. You can even define architectures. You can generate design using the chat window. You can generate code, test cases. You can also generate custom recommendations by training Q on your internal repositories. Everybody has their own error handlers, their own utility classes, their own data layer, all of that. So custom queue is also available, which is what we've not really touched upon. And then you can do ISC, infrastructure as code, which is what you have seen in Jaya's case, right? IT engineer. Then security scanning, we saw another very complex problem that all developers face is they just download different third-party libraries. They don't know what they're downloading. They never look at license terms. I never looked at it as a developer. So that is, some of those terms like GNU can be punitive. Okay, so reference tracking is all about that. Feature development is basically application maintenance. Not everybody starts coding from the scratch, right? We inherit code and we are asked to develop a feature from the backlog, for example, right? So that is possible, and upgrade Java and .NET to higher versions. So remember Anupam said, you don't have to switch context, right? You will be in the flow. That is why we're saying it will give you 10x productivity, maybe more. But the biggest advantage is you don't have to switch context. You can just focus on doing meaningful work. That's what is Q in a nutshell. Any closing thoughts?
Thanks, Madhuri. So this is the last slide, and I want to make sure you think of this as a session which showed you a lot of possibilities. Some of you may be thinking, wow, I didn't know this. Some of you may be thinking, I already know this, and maybe it reinforced some of the learnings. Maybe it shows you things which were new to you. But what I would suggest is keep an open mind. Think about, I'm a person who is working in a technology firm or doing something of your own, and how can I become more productive if I learn something from this? So it's important to learn and try something and see. So I would suggest we are given a QR code which allows you to use Q for free. So you can try it and see what type of productivity gains you see, what type of tasks you can do. Maybe if you're working in a company, see whether you can finish your task faster. So I think it's very important to be curious, very important to be trying and making an opinion of your own, rather than thinking about, do I really want to know? Because we can't predict future. None of us can predict future. But it's proven so far with, we did a lot of A/B testing. We gave a Q to one team. We didn't give Q to another team, and we saw 30 to 40% gains, depending on what context it is. So you should test for yourself what kind of gain you are seeing. And then think about what type of use cases you will build. Because whatever we showed was a way to cover a lot in whatever time we were given here. But I have a lot more possibilities, as Madhuri described earlier. So you should think about what type of things I can do and play with that. So that is what we would recommend. There's also a physical sheet given to you with QR code. So if you want to follow that, that's same QR code as this one. So that's okay. We will take a couple of questions. I know some folks were raising their hand, but we couldn't get to their question. So please ask your questions and then we'll wrap up. Yeah, go for it. I'll repeat the question. The question is, how do I know that Q is not storing my code and not taking my organization's code? Your answer?
Yeah, so there is a free version and there is a professional version. So in the professional version, there is no learning that Q does. In the free version also, you can uncheck a particular checkbox saying, I don't want this code to be used for learning.
And the use here is not like somebody is stealing your code. The code, it learns from the code, right? It sees that somebody has written, let's say somebody says, create an order, create order API. It knows create order takes like 10 things. Probably it has seen hundreds of repositories creating orders, so it knows what does create order mean. So you want your create order not to be used, you can just checkbox and say my code should not be used. It gives you complete control.
In fact, most enterprises use the professional for this reason.
Yeah.
We use third-party libraries, right? So there are multiple options in a case. Like there could be more than one third party that can do the job. Okay. How does that decision take place?
So if I understood your question, you're saying there's several third parties which we are using, and sometimes the methods and the possibilities within those libraries, does it know about them, right?
No, it's like for the same, say for example, a file upload scenario. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm using a third party to do the job. There is more than one third party that can do the job. It's my decision. As a human, I make a decision to
Yes.
this is the better library
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to the other. So how does that decision?
Oh, that's a good point. So she's asking that one specific outcome can be achieved in multiple ways in the code. You use library 1, library 2. So it gives you several options. So it's not forcing you to use a specific one. For example, let's say the example which you gave, which is upload a file. Upload a file can be done in at least 5 ways in each language. You can read a file, close, have a file pointer. Basics will remain same, but it will show you options. So as it generates, it shows you what options are available, and you can pick the option which is best for you. So you are in control there as well. It will show you implementation 1, and then if you press tab, it shows implementation 2. Press tab, it shows another one. So you can pick which implementation you like. So I was playing with a quick sort, which is a common interview question these days. I mean, early in my days, sorry, when I was interviewing many years back. So I was thinking, like, is this question still relevant? So I was asking Q, like, how will you generate quick sort, which is a common library or algorithm for sorting things. And I saw at least 20 implementation it showed. Some use merge, some are using like different types of trees, some using something else. So I think it will, because it has seen the code across the world, I think it knows what are the possible options, and will show you the ones which are most relevant, and then you can pick the one which you like. Awesome. Yeah. Does it take feedback? Do you know that? Feedback of what type? I think it depends.
Right now, there is no. Yeah, right now there is no feedback mechanism. Yes.
I'll also switch to this slide because it has a quiz. And you can scan this, and there's a quiz of question and answers related to this talk. And those who answer most correct are going to get some goodies. But while that is happening, feel free to ask questions. Yeah. 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 So the question is, we are using another assistive coding technology called GitHub Copilot. What is the difference between this and that? I don't think we have all the differences listed right now, but what I would suggest is, if it is working well for you and you're seeing productive gains, stick with it. If you think that it's not giving you what you need, definitely worth trying, because there are several features which are in addition to that. A couple of them we can talk, like transform, and the in context.
The security scanning. There are some pluses, and what if you are doing AWS work, then Q is optimized for AWS as well. In addition to all the other things that you saw, like transformation, security scanning, and reference tracking. Those are
also a lot of Amazon code, which because Amazon.
And then the inline chat, sorry.
Yeah.
The inline chat within IDE, that is a very big differentiator for Q, which is not available, I'm sure, in Copilot.
In my view, I think you can try it out and see, because there's several options in assistive coding. At the same time, I think you have to make your mind of what works best for you. Because at the end of the day, it's a tool choice, right? One tool, like somebody likes Eclipse IDE, somebody likes NetBeans, somebody likes, let's say, VS Code. So it's similarly, I think you will pick your favorite, that this works best for me. And of course, there are differences. As Madhuri shared, some of the differences are there. And they keep you in the zone more. They probably have more access to the code. And that will be of help. Yeah. Yeah. The question is, what kind of ML libraries in backend does it use behind the scenes? Maybe Madhuri, you want to share? What libraries or LLMs does it use?
It uses several, actually. You know, all the things that we saw is not coming from one model.
So it's not one library. What Madhuri is saying is, some libraries or LLMs are better at transform, some are better at unit testing, some are better in some other. So we are using several of LLMs, and there's a decision made when a task is to be done, which LLM should be used. Sometimes we'll use multiple and take the best one.
Yeah, and if that is a deal breaker, you know, we can always help you in a one-on-one kind of a setting, which particular LLM is used for what feature.
Oh yeah. That's a good question. So she's saying, how efficient have Amazon developers become because of Q? So we don't have all the developers using it, but we have piloted it in several teams. And wherever we have, we generally do give it to half the team or a section of team and don't give to other section, just to see how do we accurately identify the real productivity gain. Because productivity gain can be very subjective. Somebody starts going for lesser breaks, somebody starts working for longer hours and they can become more productive. But that's not the right productivity. Achieving the same outcome in lesser time is what productive is. So we are seeing about 30% more productivity within Amazon.
Yeah, and it's also something that you will want to evolve for your organizational standards, right? For the kind of developer skills that you have, the profile, so you will have to use it for a few months, like 6 months, and then you can kind of standardize this is what it is. But 6 months later, again, those things will change.
I would also suggest one thing which you have learned as people have started using it. Don't think of this as a magic pill which writes everything for you. It's not like I have to develop a application for doing something and it will do everything. It will create a big, it will finish a lot of things. But you as a developer need to know, what am I trying to create? What are the different systems I should have? I think that decision you should make. Of course, you can take help from it. But think of what task I should outsource or give it to Q, what task I should do or decide on as an engineer.
So I will also throw a challenge based on what Anupam said. On Monday, how many of you are going to go to your manager and ask for a coding assistant?
They're already using, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No one? Okay.
Yeah. The question is, how do we know it's not creating a tech debt? Yeah. Yeah, it's a maintainable code. So I think it writes pretty high quality code, but that's why the decision is with the developer, whether they want to accept the code or not. For example, the for loop, which is a pretty simple construct in most code, can be written in different ways depending on what language or which version of language you are using. So I think you can choose that these are the type of things which I want to use. For example, it can show algorithms with different efficiency and then you can pick and see this is the one which I want to use, because some of them can be more readable, some of them can be more efficient but very cryptic. Maybe you don't want to, so I think a decision is with the developer. Does it provide? Yeah, so I think there are modules, I don't know whether it's part of Q, but I have seen where given a code, it can show how you can make the code more efficient. Yeah. If the code takes, let's say, X amount of memory and Y amount of processing, can it take lesser? And AI can identify it.
Yeah, you saw the recommendations that it gave, right? In one of the demos, the very first one. So you can generate the code, test it, and then you can once again ask you to optimize that code and see what it comes up with.
You can ask it, optimize my code, and I'm pretty sure that's another thing you can all do when you go and start using it. You can say optimize my code and see what optimization is find. I'm pretty sure it's going to find a lot of things which you are not aware of.
Yeah. I think 6 months later, in the next Grasshopper, we will be talking very different things because the developer persona would have completely changed.
So we'll take the last two questions in the interest of time. I know folks probably need to go, and hope it was useful, but please ask yours as well. Yeah. So the question is, Amazon has 3 layers when it comes to GenAI. What was the bottom layer? Bottom layer is infra layer. So infra means hardware. GPUs. So we provide several types of GPUs, and as you know, NVIDIA is a pretty popular one. We have our own as well called Inferentia and Trainium, and a lot of models are supporting those. Then we have a layer which is for Bedrock, which is used for running different LLMs. If you have your own LLM or if you want to use an established LLM, you can use Bedrock. And the third one is the application layer. Q comes in that application. It's allowing you to do a specific task very well, which is coding. Okay, well, we'll take one final question and then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, go for it.
You mentioned that it can provide suggestions for better maintainability. That was considered using it for integrations using code reviews with GitHub.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the question is, you shared it can show ideas to make code better, more maintainable. Can it be used for code review as well? In fact, you can say. I don't know how many of you played with prompt engineering here. Prompt engineering is a is a way to write prompts. Like how do you ask LLM to do something? So one of the ways, even you can give it a role of code reviewer. You can say, you are an expert engineer who is reviewing my code. Can you give me top 10 suggestions to make my code better? And it's going to give you. So I think its possibilities are endless here. Essentially, you can think of that as another brain which is sitting with the different capabilities. You have your own brain doing different things. And you see, how do I harness the most power from this? In what context? Awesome. With that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for your interest, and looking forward to all of you using and trying and becoming more productive. If you have any feedback, there is a community, there's a user group in Bangalore. There is the link which we have shared. Will have a community.aws link as well, where you can interact. There are forums where you can share any specific things which you want to know about. But looking forward to a very productive engineering outcome which all of you receive. And thank you for coming to this talk.
Thank you.
You finished the quiz? Oh, you got all correct? 9 out of 10. Okay. Who got 10 out of 10? Okay, okay. Then. Yeah, so awesome.
Okay. Before we all just move out, I know that the time for the quiz had exceeded, but we do have the top 3 winners. Do we have the names? Okay, I'm just going to announce the names. The first is Gainal, Ojasvi, and Pragati. Pragati Gupta, can you come on stage, please? Anupam will have a picture with both of you. Why don't you give them these are the diaries from take a photo, take the photo. Lakshmi Angadi is over. Yeah. Anu? Okay, and now we just have a small token for the speakers.